Droll and Lockbird needs to be taken behind a shed and shot. What is up, duelists? It's no secret this format is a really difficult one. A lot of people really hoping for this next ban list to be absolutely blowing shit out of the way, making Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links playable again. But the thing is, guys, Duel Links is not actually unplayable right now, in my opinion. There's just a couple things that need to be tuned here and there because the format, strictly speaking, is actually kind of diverse right now. You can't look at a tier 1 that has multiple decks in it and say that that isn't diverse. There's multiple good options to play right now. You can metagame and build your deck in a particular way to beat what the big threats are right now. And like I've been saying in my recent videos, whether or not something can be interrupted does not make something interactive, and not being able to interact with something doesn't make it uninteractive. As long as you can realistically have a way to play through or around what the opponent can do, then that's interaction. But there's a big elephant in the room in Duel Links that is on my screen right now that is very problematic in Duel Links, and unfortunately has been warping duels around it. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what I personally would be doing on the ban list if I was Konami. Now, this video isn't necessarily a prediction because the way that the Duel Links ban list system works, there are so many different ways Konami could go about making decks more fair to play against that would all work. There's so many ways to cook an egg, guys. So while this is how I would do it personally, I think Konami could do it a whole bunch of different ways and they would all be very effective, all really depending on what they want the future to look like. We don't know what the future releases are going to be. Maybe, you know, some of the things that I recommend might not be what they go for because they have more information than me, or maybe they go about things in a different way that accomplishes the same things. You can never really predict when it comes to Duel Links. Now, I think a lot of other YouTubers are going to be trying to absolutely murder decks with their ban list predictions. That's not me, but I do think it's a very big common mistake that a lot of YouTubers will do, and just people in general, where they think an effective ban list has to kill a deck. Not really, bro. You might just need to get better at the game or adapt to the format better, because it might be a skill issue, because a lot of the time all that a format really needs is a couple tweaks, or maybe no tweaks at all, and the players just need to learn to adapt. Because a lot of the time when there's been a ban list where there was no changes, people really complained about it, and then the format was fine. So let's just not go overboard here. Let's get into what I would do about the format right now. Okay, first things first, Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is, in my opinion, the biggest problem in Duel Links right now. Setting this up by itself, back in just pure Despia format, maybe with a Dramaturge next to it, and just fusing into first Dark Lord on the opponent's turn, was perfectly fine, because realistically, that was just two solid interruptions backed up by the Masquerade. But Masquerade, when you have two Mirror Jades, a Draco Stapelia, potentially a Retribution, perhaps a Dramaturge, a Mercurier, a whole bunch of protection and interruption on top of your Masquerade, it means that when you're trying to deal with this deck, you have to use your answers to answer this, otherwise you're going to die, meaning that everything else that they're going to be doing is completely safe. All of your focus is shifted onto this guy when it could be spent on the Mirror Jade, for example, or the Branded in Red, for example, and so it warps the game around it, making the rest of this deck feel incredibly safe to play. It's very difficult to beat this deck if you're going second against it, because either Masquerade kills you or their interruptions kill you. You can't always deal with both. In my opinion, and in most people's opinion, Masquerade has to go. There's many different ways people would go about this. The way I personally would go about this is I would limit Masquerade to 1 alongside Branded in Red. I would have both of those two cards limited to 1, because Branded in Red is 100% mandatory in this deck. You really need it to be able to set up a second Mirror Jade as well as your Draco Stapelia, so they would definitely cut the Masquerade for it. You just lose a lot by not having Branded in Red, and also by having Branded in Red at 1 copy in your deck. It means that you can't so easily open it so that you can just set it and easily get Retribution from deck. It means that that end phase search from Albion to get either Branded in Red or Retribution is a lot more of a difficult choice. You can obviously still get your real Branded in Red from the skill. You can still get any of your back row from a Luber, so it's all good there. Your consistency isn't really hurt. All that's really gone is the Masquerade. And personally, guys, I think that if you just got rid of Masquerade, this deck is a lot more fair. There's a lot more that you can do to break through this board. Now, maybe your low tier bullshit deck isn't going to be able to beat this. I don't think that that's a problem. Something has to be good, you know? Just because your bad deck can't beat this deck doesn't mean that this deck needs to be killed so that your bad deck can beat it, okay? Getting rid of the Masquerade, all of a sudden, we have much more focus available to us to be able to deal with the rest of their threats. We can use our Droplets more effectively, we can use our Imperms more effectively, Kaijus more effectively, etc, etc. We have a lot more ways of just dealing with what the opponent can do. And Despia can still summon their Kaijus instead. That's a pretty solid threat, you know? The deck will be completely playable. However, with Masquerade gone, we will be able to effectively play through without necessarily needing board breakers, because we realistically need to draw a board breaker most of the time against this deck. But taking that option away means that we are now allowed to straight up just keep using our cards to straight up just play through these interruptions, because these interruptions, while they are very strong, it's not the most interruptions in the world. We can just straight up play through them if we don't have to worry about dying just because we activate a certain amount of effects. And I'm not trying to kill Branded, because Branded is a perfectly fine deck. You just take the Masquerade away, you guys are going to see just how much more fair of a deck this is. Of course, it's still going to be very powerful, possibly even still the best deck, but I think that being the best deck isn't a crime, but Masquerade is a crime. Now, Tachyon is the next controversial deck to talk about. Funnily enough, guys, I do think that this deck is a lot more fair than people are making it out to be, because going second, it's not the greatest strategy in the world. I mean, we do have tools for going second, but from my experience with this deck, we really just want to go first. And if we go first and the opponent has a Kaiju, it's rough. We can try to play around it, but it is rough. I will say though, it is kind of a problem that any rank 8 deck can make Dragluxion, search for Primal, use Dragluxion to go into a back renegade, summon the Primal to search Transmigration and set Transmigration to the field, and just for the cost of having 2 level 8s, you got 2 interruptions, the Titanic Galaxy and the Transmigration. I think that's very goddamn powerful just for the cost of 2 level 8s. So personally, I think that the way we can deal with that is just by limiting the Transmigration to 1 so that you can't play it alongside the Titanic Galaxy. That way, any deck that goes for this play, they can still go for it. Instead of going for Titanic Galaxy, they go for Tachyon Dragon. They still get the Transmigration. And I guess I'm kind of more okay with that because it's an Omni Negate. A rank 8 being an Omni Negate isn't the most insane thing in the world. The fact that you can't respond to it is definitely powerful, but you know, obviously you can Kaiju it. And everyone's kind of playing Kaijus this format anyway, because a lot of us going first can set up our defenses regardless, even prepare for a Kaiju. And to be honest with you guys, if your deck completely loses to Kaijus, you probably gotta learn to play around it by putting more monsters on the field. For example, in Tachyons, I could put either 2 Tachyons on the field, or I could put a Tachyon and a Galaxy and a Primal and set my back row. That way, if they Kaiju, I still have a Galaxy Eyes on field, and if they Lava Golem, I still have an interruption on the field regardless. But in terms of the actual Galaxy Eyes deck itself, I don't think that this deck needs to be hit that much. However, I do think that opening one of these traps when you're going second with your Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon make the board breaking effect of this card way too powerful. So perhaps we can limit the Galaxy in some way. Perhaps we could limit both Infinity Dragon and Galaxy to 3. That way you would probably play 2 of this and 1 of this. So there's only 2 traps in your deck. There's a lot lower odds of you just opening this to protect your effect to break the opponent's whole board. Because really what makes this effect fair is that they can, you know, chain something before you activate it. So, you know, this is the other best deck alongside Branded. People might be wondering, what am I gonna hit on here? Personally, guys, I don't think I need to hit anything in Traptrix. I mean, they might hit things on Traptrix, but I don't think that they need to. I feel like Traptrix is so powerful right now because of the context of the format. And I think that it being powerful isn't necessarily crime. There's nothing here, you know, game breaking. It's just that, you know, because of the context of this format, Traptrix is able to take advantage, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. So, you know, I feel like I personally would just let Traptrix slide, even if it becomes the best deck after the ban list. If you guys have been playing, you might be wondering why the hell there's a Sword Soul deck on the screen. this deck isn't even a problem right now. That's exactly why this deck is on the screen, guys. This deck is a representation to me of what is currently wrong with skills right now. And no, guys, I'm not about to doom post about skills being bad for the game. No, skills are good for the game. And I think that if you're still complaining about skills, then you need to fuck off and play a different game. I understand some skills being a problem, and that's fine. That's completely fine with me. But skills overall have been a net positive for the game, except for the fact that some of them, for whatever reason, don't let you play Kaijus. I think that's a problem, guys. I think that is probably the biggest problem holding back some of the decks in this game. I think that we need to have some of these skills buffed, not really changed, but just buffed a little bit. They allow you to play at least one of the different Kaijus, because being able to adapt to the format means being able to change your staples. If that staple happens to be a Kaiju, we should be allowed to play it. There's nothing busted about Kaijus. So preventing us from playing Kaijus, to me, is a problem. So even if you just changed the skill text to say, you know, you cannot special summon X and Y within your deck's theme, except like it only says to your field. Like you can only summon this and this and this to your side of the field. So you can still summon a Kaiju to the opponent's side of the field and it would be fine. Because really, like Droplet Eclipse, they're obviously good cards. You know, whatever other staples you play, they might be good cards, but not being able to Kaiju the opponent when that might be what is necessary to adapt to the format can really hold a deck back. It won't hold a deck fully. I mean, Weatherman was able to get King of Games with Sword Soul last month, but it is going to make things quite a lot harder. So, you know, not just Sword Soul, there's other decks in the game too that need Kaijus right now. So, you know, buff their skills, allow people to play Kaijus. Now, Blue Eyes has been a solid deck. It is off the tier list now, and it is not necessarily causing any problems, but we did recently get Hope Harbinger, Dragon Titanic, Galaxy in the game, limited to 1. The only decks that can play this are Tachyon and Blue Eyes, inherently, right? So really, why can't Blue Eyes play it? I feel like Majesty of the White Dragons should be either limited to 2 or limited to 3 or just fully unlimited to allow Blue Eyes to be able to play this, because that spell negate is kind of really important these days. You know, I'm just saying, Blue Eyes isn't problematic, guys. If you're losing to Majesty, then you're losing to Majesty at 1, so it doesn't matter how many copies they have in the deck, you're gonna lose to it regardless, and you need to just adapt your deck. I mean, this deck is not problematic anymore, so unhit the Majesty in some form, you know, as long as it's not limited to 1, so that Hope Harbinger can be free. Droll and Lockbird needs to be taken behind a shed and shot. Duel Links has a very cool context where cards that ordinarily would be really bad, Duel Links often finds ways of giving decks ways around them. That was true for a long time with Droll, where, you know, the skill searches that you got that can't be stopped or interacted by Droll, any potential draw phase searches that the Droll can't interact with. You know, those decks could, you know, very easily get through a Droll or ignore a Droll, but that's kind of not the case anymore. There's a lot of decks right now that will just outright lose the game because the opponent just so happened to open a Droll. So I think Droll really needs to be killed in a very real way. I know that it's a main box UR. I know I've been recommending people pick this card up because of its power level, but personally, I would ban this card. I know that sounds horrible, but, you know, at least if you ban this card, there's other URs in the same box that you could exchange it for that are pretty damn good. But I know that they're not going to ban this, so maybe at least limit it in some fashion, limit it to 3 at least. I just don't think that there should be such a win button hand trap. Now, when it comes to unlimiting cards, I think that, you know, most of the ban list here is perfectly fine, especially like knowing that a lot of banned cards are banned for FTK reasons or just game balance reasons. But there's a lot of things that are here simply because the deck was too powerful, but the deck was too powerful way too long ago for them to still be hit on the ban list. Cyber Dragons is the perfect example. This deck on release had Cyber Dragon Infinity limited to 1. After being limited to 1, Cyber Dragon did nothing. On release of Infinity, a whole ass Omni Negate, the deck did nothing. Now I understand Infinity being limited alongside Ptolemaeus, because Ptolemaeus would allow for any rank 4 deck to be able to make Infinity. Maybe that's too good of a thing, but that's still a 3 materials Infinity. I don't think a 3 materials Infinity would be too bad of a thing. 3 materials for 1 Omni Negate, that's not too big of a deal to me personally. But in terms of Cyber Dragons, even if you were to leave Infinity limited to 1, it's time to unlimit Overflow so that Cyber Dragons can have the maximum amount of consistency to get their interruptions. And I think it's been kind of a problem that Duel Links has been so scared of Cyber Dragons being good that they haven't really given Cyber Dragons any support for ages. Like 2 years ago, they did support the deck. However, the support was a complete nothing burger because they didn't unlimit the overflow. Emergency teleport, there is no reason for this to be limited to one. Konami. Rockets literally has a card that is the same for that archetype, except it's better. They're both not once per turn. They both summon anything from their respective themes. They both have downside. There's no reason for E-Telly to be at 1 then. If Quick Launch can be at 3, why is E-Telly at 1? So at least unlimit this so we can play it as extra consistency alongside the Titanic Galaxy that we summon in Punk. And then, like, just give us 2 more copies, bro. Come on, man. Why can't we have 3 E-Telly? I think we need to unlimit Void Ogre Dragon. I understand why it was limited, okay? Because Resonators was summoning a big board. But the thing is that even that board that Resonators was summoning with Void Ogre Dragon, even to this day, would still not be that good. So, please, allow Resonators the ability to negate Branded Fusion. You know, at the very least. Just unlimit the Void Ogre Dragon, bro. I think at this point in the game, at this point in Power Creep, seeing everything that's going on right now, we don't need any of the Salamangreat cards to be hit. We can unlimit Gazelle, we can unlimit Roar, we can unlimit Circle. Just let it happen, man. Let us get our Omni Negate. Everyone else is setting up a million negates anyway. Why can't we just let Salamangreats have their power, bro? I mean, come on. It would not be a problem. And even if it was gonna make it competitively viable, bro, would that really be the worst thing? Come on, man. And finally, you know, gotta say it for my boy Meklord. It's time to unlimit Void Feast and Void Banishment. Not, you know, limit 1 to 3. Not, you know, unlimit just one of them. No, unlimit both of them. They both have to be unlimited. There is no reason for these to be on the ban list. No reason whatsoever. Nothing less than unlimited, Konami. I'm not going to hear anything about it, or we're going to have some problems. At some point in the video, this turned into a bit of a wish list, but hey, man, you know, I'm giving my perspective. I think that this format is mostly fine. Just, you know, make a couple changes here or there. It'll make it a little bit more balanced. But hey guys, do you agree? Do you disagree? Tell me in the comments what your custom ban list would be. And hey guys, if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to get notified next time we drop a video. Have yourselves a good one. I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Hey, why they gotta hate on me? I done got me 250,000 views and they still saying they low key. They ain't wanna come work with the kid, but I'm flexing with Zay on beats. How they ask for a spot at the gym, but they leave all the weight on me. I don't ask them to wait on me. They would ask where they gon' be with a song if they wanted the Weatherman. I ain't ask them to pay no fees. She was homeless and needed a spot. I ain't ask her to pay no lease. I ain't ask her to say no please. I ain't ask her to make no cheese. Scream fake, but it ain't on me. Got clean, so it ain't no streets. Why green if it ain't no keeps? Brought cream, so it ain't no beef. My team say it ain't no chief. My demon, they hang on me. They seemingly ain't no peace. I seen him, he ain't no beast. For real.